Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about React Native Expo and styling. We are going to learn about what is styling in React Native, why is styling different from Web CSS, how do we style in Expo React Native, how can we organize and optimize styles, common styling tips, mistakes to avoid, and also extra tools like style components or Tailwind. Let's go step by step. First, let's create our new project. You're gonna use npx create expo app at latest. You're gonna press yes. Here, give any sorts of name to your application. For us, it will be our first app. Once your application is created, you can just go into your application, writing cd first app. Once you enter your first app folder, you can just start running your application, writing npm run web. Once your application is running, now you open your new project in your code editor. Okay, first we should clean up our application a little bit. Open your app folders, tabs, and then pick index.tsx. We should remove first most of these components. We don't need them yet. Alright, once we cleaned up our applications, we should check if our application is still working. As you see, now we have an empty screen with only an image left. So now let's talk about what is styling in React Native. In simple terms, styling is how you make your application look good. Basically, you setting your colors, layouts, font sizes, spacing, positioning, shadows, borders, and so on. In React Native, you don't use regular CSS like in web development. Instead, you use JavaScript-based styling system. Alright, so let's go back to our code and let's add the component. You're going to add a component called view. Be sure to import the one which is from React Native. In this view component, we can add the text component. Again, be sure that you are using the components from React Native. So first, let's type here hello demo, and then now we can add some style to our component. For example, we can just add background color. Let's make it white. And then we can also add some padding. Alright, now you can save your changes and then we can check our application. As you see, now we have a text component inside a view, which basically has a white background color with a padding of 10. But as you can imagine, if you write your styling like this. After a while it can become quite cumbersome. So for this reason we can make it look a bit cleaner. So for this we can use a so-called style sheet. Style sheet, create, and then inside this style sheet we are able to define our styles in a JSON object, which makes it a lot more cleaner to use. So for example, you can write let's write text container, or you can write text view, and then we can add our styling here. So basically what we wrote before, background color, which can be now white, and then we can add our padding, which can be 10. But this way you can also define multiple other styles for different components. So for example, here we can define our text styling, writing text, and then let's say let's make font size into 20, and then we can add, for example, color blue. So hit save, and then from here we can use our style component. So here, instead of this inline styling, we can just put our style, and then we can use our text view, and then on our text we can again write style, and then we can use our text style that we defined. Now hit save, and then we can check our application. As you see, the style again changed, and with this small change we can make our code look a lot more simple, and it's a lot easier also to understand what's happening. Now we can talk about why is styling different in React Native. The big reason is React Native isn't using HTML and CSS under the hood. It uses native mobile components like views, texts, scroll views, and not div and span. Div and span are web components, but React Native does not use these. So CSS classes and browser style sheets do not exist here. Instead, styles are applied using JavaScript objects. Style names are written in camel case, background color, not background dash color. You can't use media queries, hover, or z-index, the same way you would do it on the web. React Native uses a limited subset of CSS optimized for mobile. So how do you style in Expo and React Native then? Expo are just React Native apps with extra tools to make development faster. Here's how you usually style. Basic layout components, usually your view, it's like a div container block. Texts are usually used for display texts. Image shows for image, scroll views to create a scrollable container, and touchable opacity or pressable for making tappable buttons. Just to make some more examples here. So let's go back to our code, and then inside the view we can add, for example, some of these. As you see here, we already have an image, so I'm gonna leave that out. We already used view and text, so now let's check scroll view and touchable opacity. So first let's add scroll view. Again, make sure you're using the one from React Native. And then inside the scroll view, let's add some touchable opacity. Again, from React Native. Alright, so in order to show that the touchable opacity is actually clickable, Usually I prefer to add some sort of component inside of it, so it's actually nice and easily visible. So we can add the text component here and make it button 1. And also now we're gonna copy paste a few more of these buttons. Make a button 2, button 3, button 4, button 5, and button 6. Hit save, and let's check our application. So as you see, now we have clickable buttons, but of course this doesn't really do anything for us at the moment. But this is already can show you that there are multiple different components that's quite easily usable. Now that we are got familiar with some of our components we can use in React Native, let's make a simple style box. Let's go back to our code. Let's clean up it a little bit here. So I'm gonna remove some of these. So for this simple style box, basically we are going to use already what we have been using, this text view. And then let's change a little bit. We can say that okay, this is gonna be a flex one. Background color we can leave as is. And then we can tell that we are going to align the items inside of this box to the center. And also justify the content to the center. Okay, hit save, and then now let's check how our application changed. As you see, now our component basically having the hello demo inside of it, and it's now aligned to the middle according to our CSS. As you've seen, you have been using FlexFrom. So what is FlexFrom? It basically tells the container to take all the available space. This is part of Flexbox, which is how React Native handles layout, just like Web Flexbox, but slightly simplified. So now let's talk about how to organize styles properly. Our option A is inline styles. Basically, these are quick and dirty styles. They are very great for fast testing, but not readable or reusable. So these are not really recommended to use in the long run. So basically, these inline styles is what you see here. This is an inline style. Our option B is basically style sheet. So as you see here, we have been creating these styles, and these are helps with the performance. It also makes your styling centralized, also makes code easier to read. And we have also option C, where we can create custom components with styles. Instead of repeating styles, you can wrap them in components. So for example, let's create a component. So as you see, we have a components folder, and open the components folder and add the new file. Let's make a button. Name it button.tsx, and then just write const blue button. This is going to be a function. So as we talked before, we can basically create buttons with touchable opacity. So we are going to use that here. we are adding a text component inside of it. And then if you would like it to be customizable, then we are able to pass a text here, which is going to be a string for us. So we are going to use this text inside of this text. Alright, so since now we have the component ready, now what we need to add here is the styling. So we are going to create here a style. We're going to tell that, okay, this is going to be our blue button. So basically what we need to do here is to create a touchable opacity with a background of blue. Now, of course, we can add some paddings to make it look a bit nicer. And as for the text, we are going to change the color to white. So same as before, right styles, right style, and then we are going to add our styles button style here, and then we're going to do the same on text, but with the text style. Alright, now our component is ready. Now we just need to export this. With this, now we are able to export our blue button and use it in our pages. So go back to the index, and now we are going to add here a button, which will be our blue button. As you see, it's already suggests that it comes from the component blue button, which we just defined. And then, as you see, it's going to complain for us because we told it that it expects a text argument. Alright, hit save, and then now let's check our application. As you see, we have here our blue button. Alright, so now let's talk about our common tips and mistakes. So usually what's good to do is to use style sheet create instead of random inline styles. Think mobile first, keep things simple. Use flex layouts to adjust to different screen sizes. Use platform module if you want iOS and Android specific styles. What you should not do is to try to use web CSS, it will not work. Use magic numbers like hard-coded widths or paddings too much. These are also very bad practice. Forget scrollable containers, scroll view or flat list for long content.